بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين شفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين وأصحابه المنتجبين ولعنة الله الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمسابنا بأبي عبد الله الحسين عليه الصلاة والسلام صلوات. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amongst the articles of faith that actually distinguishes Islam, the formalistic Islam, from any other Abrahamic religion or any other faith, most prominently, is not the belief in God or the belief of responsibility of actions and qiyamah, but it is the belief in the unity of God and the way in which Islam has expressed it. Why is this article so important within Islam? For the simple purpose that the articles of faith within Islam are not only there to determine our attitude towards the other, but they are supposed to assist us in our growth process to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and bringing us to the fruition of our existence in order to actualize the fullest of our potential. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that it is an absolute need to believe in the unity of God, then that is existentially very, very impactful. Now, to an extent, we can discuss and discern why. And to another extent, we don't know why. To one level, we have to leave it up to Allah's superior knowledge. And at another level, we have to try and make sense of it and abide by the message of Tawheed. I see some beautiful faces here. Please don't go away. I want to see you after the majlis, okay? I'm not a headmaster telling the student, but the thing is I didn't meet you yesterday, so please stay, yes? Don't go away. Salawat. He says that when you see such lovely people, you do want to see them, don't you? So that's why. So to an extent, we leave it up to Allah, and to another extent, we try and decipher it as to what it means and how is it impactful within our lives. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Alastu bi rabbikum qalu bala, am I not your Lord? They said yes. Now here, Allah is saying that I am your Lord, least on the day of Qiyamah, you say to me, Allah is saying to us, that we had no knowledge of this. Our forefathers did something, we followed them, and now you are punishing us for it. Allah is saying, no, I have taken a pledge from you that I am your Lord. You need to be true to this pledge. Now we ask, I don't remember this pledge. The thing is that there is no question of remembering something that we have forgotten. It is existentially available. In other words, it's a part and parcel of our nature. I'm coming to the point very gradually. Sometimes we don't have to remember information that we have forgotten. I can tell you about an incident, and you can tell me, I did not retain it. I have forgotten it. At other points, you will tell me, I forgot this truth that was so obvious. Here, it's not a question of you being told something that you have forgotten. It is us being mindless of something that is so obvious. What do we mean? The Prophet went to his community, and he gave them moral instructions. Do not steal when you transact with people. Something very simple. Do not kill. Do not lie. The people said, yes, he is speaking the truth. We now remember. Remember what? Remember what is so obvious in itself anyway. In other words, what they were trying to say was, we have become mindful of the truth that we already had. We had become mindless and heedless of the truth that we already knew. And that is why the Quran is known as the reminder. Not reminder of information that we have forgotten, but reminder as an awakener to the obvious truth by which we live. So sometimes remembrance is in the meaning of becoming mindful of something that we've become heedless of. So here Allah is saying, Alastu bi Rabbikum. We are saying, Bala, you are. And that is a truth that is embedded deep within us. If we look at shirk, in its entirety, it is to do with the lordship of God. It is to do with rububiyyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we will explain this right now and very, very shortly. So Allah is insistent that you have to understand Allah as one. And that is why Islam is known as the most monotheistic of all faiths. Why is it so? If you look at us, we are people who are very much caught up in our lives. We are very much distracted. The message of Tawheed is a very simple message. It is a relationship between you and your Allah, and nobody else comes in between. Finish. If you want sustenance, it's your God. If you want life, it's your God. If you want health, it's your God. If you want acceptability by others, it's your God. Nothing to do with anybody else. It wasn't the existence of God that reformed the Meccans. It was the unity of God that reformed the Meccans. They had so many gods for different aspects of life. They had become overly superstitious people. The Prophet did not introduce the existence of God to cure this disease. He introduced the article of the unity of God to cure all of these diseases. What happened there was, he rid them of their insecurity and allowed their human condition to grow through God and become competent and become confident and to take the reins of their authority and to drive their destiny wherever they wanted to. From being nomadic creatures to explorers was due to the notion of unity of existence and nothing else. But in this we need to work very, very deeply as to what do we mean. Now, if you look at the whole argument of unity of existence, you see, we need to work into it slowly, gradually today, yes? To be honest with you, for me to think that this ring can help me is a form of shirk according to the Prophet. Yes? When the Meccans said to the Prophet, we do not worship these things save that they bring us closer to Allah, Allah retorts and says, is this shirk something that I have allowed you to do? Unity is there, unity of belief in God is there to liberate us. But this unity has to be understood. The first thing is notionally. How do we understand that God is one? You see, there are many, many theological arguments, but they don't really make sense. The realist argument is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran. Had there been gods beside Allah, heavens and the earth would have collapsed. What does that mean? Existence in its entirety is just one existence. And one existence is displaying its property everywhere in a consistent manner. There is no conflict of systems within the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything in the world of God grows, doesn't it? Everything is growing. A fetus grows, a seed grows, the galaxies grow, the earth grows. Show me one thing whose motion is arrested. Nothing. Everything is moving, everything is completing itself. It's one system. And this is what God is saying in the Quran, that there is no dual system in the universe. There is one existence, and that existence is one in its entirety. If this is the way we understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this is the way we understand the unity of God. There is nothing but God. Nothing else. It's just one God. Now, I think we need to give a certain example here to make this a little bit more clear. Those Sufi examples that we normally give, I'll give one or two of them to get us through this particular patch. There was a group of fish. They were discussing among themselves. And they were saying, we have heard that we are created from water, but we do not see water. But we have heard that there is a fish, a wise one, at the end of the ocean, who not only sees water, but can show water to others. They take on an arduous journey. They come to that place of the ocean and they say, oh, wise one, we hear that you see and you show the substance of life. You show water. The fish said, show me other than water, and then I shall show you water. Look at the beautiful way the Sufis depict these truths. I'm coming to it in a forceful way in a little while. The other story is, two people stand at the shores of the sea. One says, how mighty are the waves. The other says, it is nothing but the ocean. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala introduces himself in this wonderful way. When we ask Allah, oh Lord, explain yourself, He explains, Huwa al-awwalu wal-akhiru. He is the first, He is the last. Huwa al-zahiru wal-batinu. He is the apparent, He is the hidden. Imagine if He is the awwal and He is the akhir and He is the zahir and He is the batin, then where is me and where are you? Where am I and where are you? How beautifully Hussain ibn Ali says. He says, oh Lord, if yustadal bima huwa fi wujudihi muftaqirun ilayk, how can we seek direction from that which is in need to you in its existence? Is it possible that anything that you have created be more apparent than you in order to lead me to you? Why should I look at your handiwork when I see you standing before it, behind it, above it, below it? This is how Hussain ibn Ali sees Allah. Look at how Ali ibn Abi Talib describes him. He says, مَعَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ لَا بِمُلَاسَقَةٍ دُونَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ لَا بِمُزَايَلَةٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with everything, yet He touches nothing. He is other than everything, yet there is no distance between Him and anything. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes His unity in the entirety of existence. He says the entirety of existence is one existence. In that one existence is nothing but beauty of God prevalent. There is nothing but all the attributes of God in that one existence. Now, if we were to understand Allah in that way, then what we come to understand is this, that the attributes of God are also one. Wherever we look in existence, we see nothing but knowledge of God. We see nothing but life of God. We see nothing but mercy of God. Look at the existence of Allah. You will find it living. Every aspect of it is alive. Every aspect of it is filled with knowledge. Every aspect of it is meticulously balanced. So this is the sort of unity Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala introduces within the Quran in our minds. What is the end game? The end game is so that we are free of distractions. We find Allah sufficient for us. Allah is absolutely enough for us and allows us to grow and to break free of the shackles that we have in the name of other than God. Now imagine if we were to understand, honestly, that whatever Allah is doing is good in itself. Imagine how we would be changed from within, how liberated we would become. That God is the one who knows best what He is doing. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad is poking at the face of Hussain. And he says, you had cheerful smile, O Hussain. You had a good set of teeth, O Hussain. Then he looks at Zainab and he said, O Zainab, how do you find the decree of Allah with regard to your brother? She said, Ma ra'aytu illa jamila. I have not seen anything but beauty prevail. She had that insight into the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which made her say this. Imagine if me and you could understand the Tawheed of Allah, that Allah is the one who sustains. We would never bow down in front of tyrants. We would be sufficient. When Hussain ibn Ali said to Umar ibn Sa'd that you will not receive the land of Ray, you don't have to bend your principles. Umar ibn Sa'd, had he understood Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he would have trusted Imam Hussain and would have said, if Allah has destined it for me, it will come to me. If He hasn't, it won't. And liberated himself from that crime. Instead of going to hell, he would have gone to paradise instead. Imagine if I were to know, as Ali ibn Abi Talib says, that speaking the truth does not cut your sustenance, nor does it hasten your death. Imagine if I were to understand that message. How liberated I would become from within. The Quran so beautifully says, you are afraid of death, but if death comes upon you, you will come to me in any case. What wrong is there in death? And then Quran says, when death is written for you, whether you like it or not, you will be dragged by your forelock to the place where you are to be slain. You can't avoid it. Imagine if that message that there is only one God and He has the final say, if that message enters into the minds, how liberated we would become. Our state is no different from the Meccans. It's just in a different way. They bowed to Lat and Uzza. We bow to the people from whom we receive our sustenance. Don't we? We hesitate to say the truth because of the fear of loss of life. We give sadaqah on many occasions in order to ward off evil. We wear rings in order for protection. But we have forgotten the one who has put any potency in this ring is with me in any case. He hasn't left me. This was the message of Tawheed in its entirety. It was meant to liberate us. However, we need to work into it theologically. So now subhanahu wa ta'ala explains in the Quran that these angels are the creative force of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The angels are the one who fashion. The angels are the one who give that. The angels are the one who instill life within the fetus in the womb. The angels are the one who bring rain down. The angels are the one who make the earth produce its vegetation and its plant. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the meticulous workings of the angel. Yet, He wants us to go beyond the angels and to understand His Tawheed for what it is worth. And He says, cut through the whole of the layers of angels and see me instead. Do not see the angels as the creative force. See me as the creative force. To the extent, and we will come to this, that He asks on the day of Qiyamah to the angels, did they worship you? And the angels said, no, they did not worship us. They worshipped some jinn. So Allah is saying, despite this variety that you have, and this is a theological article of faith, that despite the variety that you have, you are supposed to be directed to me only. Only I am doing all of these things. Look at how beautifully Ibrahim explains. وَإِذَا مَرِضْتُ فَهُوَ يَشْفِينِ. And when I become sick, He is the one who cures me. Ibrahim does not see the hand of the physician. He does not see the medicine. He sees God directly. It is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doing this. Nobody else is doing it. We say to Allah, O Lord, feed the hungry. Allah says, be my hand and feed. And the person who receives the sustenance will not say, you have fed me. Will say, Alhamdulillah, O Allah, you fed me through him. So this was the message of Tawheed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is imparting to us. So Tawheed is seen as the Tawheed of Allah in His existence. Every beauty that is happening, which are the sifat of Allah, is all one. And then Allah says, everything that is being done in this world, the creative force, is only me, nobody else. Now here says Allah, that therefore there has to be Tawheed in ibadah. And that is the central tenet of Islam. That worship only me. Do not worship other than me. So we ask Allah, well, what is worship? And it is here where we give those technical definitions. So now, we find in Surah Yusuf, in which Yusuf says, إِنِّي رَأَيْتُ أَحَدَ عَشَرَ كَوْكَبًا وَالشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ رَأَيْتُهُمْ لِي سَاجِدِينَ. He says to Yaqub, I find the 11 stars and the sun and the moon, I find them all prostrated to me. Then, when Yusuf is inside his court, and his father and mother come, and 11 brothers come, and they fall in sajda in front of Yusuf, Yusuf says, oh father, this is the meaning of the dream that I had, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it come true. They are doing sajda to Yusuf. Is that therefore doing ibadah of Yusuf? The Quran says no. The Quran doesn't even call it shirk. Why? What we are trying to say here is that shirk comes from ibadah. Either saying there is another God other than Allah with equal independence, or worshipping other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with that notion that they have independence of right. Here sajda is not performed in front of Yusuf by considering Yusuf as a God, as a Rabb, as providing anything. Sajda is performed in the sense of giving respect to Joseph. And that gesture of respect does not constitute shirk at all. Think about this carefully. Now, you might have the Sharia of Islam banning prostration to other than Allah. Then in that case, they are banning an extension of ibadah. Why? Because sajda has become so closely related with ibadah, that is why it gives a false notion that we are doing ibadah of somebody else. I'll explain that again. A sajda done to Yusuf does not constitute shirk. Why? Because Yaqub is not doing sajda to Yusuf thinking that Yusuf is the Lord of Yaqub. That is the problematic area. That intention is the problematic area. So therefore, that act was not accompanied by that intention. And therefore, that act is not an act of shirk. And Allah can tolerate that act. But because in Islam, ruku and sujood are so closely associated with expression of ibadah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Islam will now inevitably ban ruku and sujood to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because it's an expression that has become so fixed with ibadah. So doing ruku or sajda to anybody is not shirk. It's that intention that accompanies it. In this way, we find that the Sharia is very, very broad. Imam Sadiq goes to the ziyarah of Imam Hussain and then he performs 2 rakat salah deliberately. And then after salah, he makes a dua. He is educating the people around him. He says, Raka'tu laka wa sajadtu lak. Oh Allah, I have done ruku for you and I have done sajda for you. لأن ruku wa sujud la yakun illa lak. Because ruku and sujud cannot be done save for you. The reason why he emphasizes this is because at the time of Imam Sadiq, ruku and sujood had become very fixed forms of ibadah. So he was educating his people. But in essence, ruku and sujood do not constitute ibadah. They are gestures of respect. So you can then derive a lot of other meanings from it, and I don't need to necessarily go into the ramification of all of that. Now, is asking from other than Allah ibadah of the other? If I were to go to my physician, and if I were to say to my physician, cure me, is that shirk? The answer is, it all depends on your intention. If you feel that this person has independency of curing you, then in that case, that is shirk. I will say, is it? Really, is it? As human beings, are we not doing this all the time? Is it not a state that is our human state and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgoes? Are we that blinkered? Seriously? Think about this carefully. We often go to other people and we say, do this for me. And in our minds, there isn't a sophisticated calculation that this person is only a means and is not an end. We, for all intent and purpose, see that person independently doing those things. Is it shirk? It isn't. That is the human condition in us. As we become more and more refined, we become more and more muwahid, monotheistic, and we relieve ourselves more and more of all the veils of shirk. But these are existential levels of shirk. That is not shirk. But if we go to somebody and we say, do this for me, you can do it because you are divine and worthy of worship and adoration because you can do this, then that would be shirk. Can you see that? Now, the angels, in their scheme, there's a hierarchy. If we ask the angels, help me, is this shirk? In principle, is it shirk? The answer is no, it's not shirk. It's just like asking a representative of the Prime Minister to do something for us. We say, look, you have independent discretion. Through that independent discretion, do something for me. Why should that be shirk? What I'm trying to say here is that the Islamic articles of faith, even though they are meant to liberate us, but they are meant to liberate us in a gradual fashion and manner. We can't impose the meaning of unity of being of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and unity of worship inconsistent with our human condition. It has to flow gradually and slowly. A person has to grow into the monotheistic message slowly and gradually. And that is why the Prophet of Islam said that the shirkul khafi, the hidden shirk, will prevail in my ummah. But these are levels of shirk that are forgivable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah forgives them. That not only encourages us to grow steadily, but it also broadens our horizons. The sickness with the Muslims is in labeling each other. We label each other. This is shirk, this is mushrik, this is this is that. Have you known this? This is the disease that we have. And it is wholly because of this ambiguity within the articles of faith. You know something? Today we call somebody mushrik, tomorrow somebody will call us mushrik. I used to say this in Pakistan. I said, you made those people kafir, tomorrow it's your turn, and it's come. Honestly, we get what we deserve. We really get what we deserve. This arrogance inside us for not understanding the message of God and being so arrogant, this is not godly at all. Now, we come to people of the book. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the Sabians salvation. Inna alladhina amanu walladhina hadu wan nasara was sabin. Now this verse is repeated twice. So if somebody comes to me and tells me, actually this clear-cut verse of Islam Quran does not mean what you're saying. So I'll say, okay, Quran has 6,600 or 6,240 something verses. Yes? I know you're used to 666, aren't you? But it's not actually right. It's 6,200 or 400 and something. I'll say in those numbered verses, do you think God is going to waste time? He will say one thing once and go on. He wants to explain about the heavens and the earth, right and wrong, spiritual connection with Allah, the stories of the Prophet. He's not going to waste his time. The same verse is repeated again. Exactly same, with the difference of the place of Sabi'in and Nasara. The sequence has changed slightly. The same verse, in verse upon verse, giving salvation to everybody. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving salvation to the Sabians. And the Sabians are the people who worship, according to the tafsir of Tabatabai, Ridwanullah alayh, worship the stars. These people, according to our estimation, are mushrik. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving them salvation. What is the reason here? The reason here is that they were making those stars or whatever they were worshipping as means to God. They may not have seen them as independent lords. Then we come to Majus. They were worshipping again the stars or fire. Again, the Prophet says, deal with them as you deal with the people of the book. They are sacred. So why is Prophet foregoing their level of shirk? Now, these are questions that need to be understood accurately because it will give us perspective on the life at hand, what is happening today and now. On the other hand, the mushriks of Makkah were not allowed respite. Now, when we look at the mushriks of Makkah, we do not only find worshipping other gods, but they gave independency of lordships to those gods. And that was most accurately depicted them as mushrik. But even more than that is their tendency and were their inhumane traits and characteristics. They were totally moved away from human values, from spirituality. And that was the problematic area. So if we look at the broadness of Islam, in which it accepts Majus, and it accepts the Sabi'in, and gives salvation to Sabi'in, then we have to ask ourselves something, that what about our outlook to the world at present? I often say to the Muslims, I say, look, your claims are false, and I'm a Muslim. Yes? We need to become critical, introspect, and try and understand. What a day that I have to say I'm a Muslim. Salawat. You know, the Muslims say Islam is the best global religion. You know, that's a really, you're going to force conversion to Islam. You're going to give protection status to the Jews and the Christians, and you will make all the rest of the world, the Buddhists and the Hindus, stateless. That is your Islamic global system. Because of your narrow worldview, the way you've understood the world. You will make majority of the world stateless. They will have no rights anywhere because they are not belonging to Islam, or they're not the people of the book. Now, with this sort of broad understanding, what we see is that actually shirk is to give independence of lordship to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But even that, if it is done in a manner that is not confronting in their minds the unity of God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is tolerating and seeing this as a human condition and grow together. So we ask about the modern day Hindus, let's say the most blatant example of what we call a mushrik and an idolater. Can they be considered as mushrik? And then if they are mushrik, then can we then have this bias against them? Yes? Before we work into another level of shirk altogether. The thing is, if you ask these Hindus, who are you worshipping? They will say there is only one God. And this one God has several different expressions. And none of these expressions have independency from that one God. In that case, how different are they from any other monotheistic faith that advocates the same thing? Are they mushrik in that sense? In the strictest of sense, are they mushrik? And then if they are not mushrik, then modify our attitude towards them. Now, we come to the sect of Hindus who do not worship idols at all. If we look at Hindus, they are not all the same. They are very different people. There are many, many different trends of belief that are joined into Hinduism as one. Look at them. Dissect the issue and analyze. You will find a group that does not need the assistance of idols or means to God. They will say, no, we are worshipping God who is formless. They are not idolaters. You find another group. They will say, all these gods that we depict are the avatars of God. They are not gods at all. They are the expressions of the same God. How different is that from some of the claims of the Christians? That the Son and the Father and the Holy Ghost are all one and different. How different are they? And if Allah can tolerate that, why can't He tolerate this? I know there might be a naive Hindu sect that says, this particular idol is my God. Yeah, that's a problematic issue. That's a problematic area. That this is my God. But even there, I beg to defy. And I say to you, that if you look and analyze the story of the mushrik of Makkah, they were most accurately deemed as enemies of God. They weren't particularly people who were condemned due to their shirk, but their condemnation comes because of them standing in opposition to the God that the Prophet was introducing. That was the problem with the mushriks of Makkah, that they were saying, our God is other than your God. And that is why the Prophet said, La a'budu ma ta'budun. I do not worship what you worship. You ask the modern day Hindu, they say, whatever we worship is the same as your God. Our God does not tell us to exploit. Our God does not tell us to cheat. Our God does not tell us to lie. Our God does not tell us to kill. Our God does not teach us immorality. Our gods teach us what your God teaches you. An enemy of God is one who projects and advocates a contrary system to the one God is expressing. God expresses a godly system, just social order, no exploitation. An enemy of God is the one who justifies the contrary. There should be social inequality. There should be exploitation. There should be burial of daughter in the name of God. And that is why Allah says, how can Allah ordain that which is unchaste or indecent in the Quran? Allah says to the mushrik, how can Allah ordain that which is indecent and that which is reprehensible? Because they were saying God ordains this. And Allah is saying you're worshipping another God altogether. But if you look at modern day Hindus, no matter what they are, they will all talk about their gods ordaining decency, righteousness. So even then, even in the case of the idolaters, we would find it very, very difficult. We can say these are mushrik in terms of idolatry, fine. But we cannot say that they are mushrik like the type of the Meccan mushriks. So even then, a different attitude needs to be adopted towards them. When we clarify this much, much further, we find that actually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us a very broad understanding in the principle of faith in order for us to accommodate the world in its entirety and allow it to grow properly, it needs an overall binding system. And that overall binding system is Islam. A beautiful system that allows for growth through tolerance, through beautiful harmony. Now, of course, I will not hesitate in saying this, that many of the practices that the Hindus have, I find them, with all due respect, and I ask forgiveness before saying this, are very wasteful. Constantly being in the mandir, constantly having this bhajan day and night, Allah doesn't want that. These are distracting. We need to move on. We need to grow. We need to work. We need to attend to our lives. And this is what Allah said. He said, your working is ibadah. You don't have to be inside the mosque. Your real ibadah is in your engagement with life fruitfully. Don't you remember that story of the Prophet in which the companions came to the Prophet and they said, there is a great abid in our camp. And he said, what does he do? They said, he constantly worships on his musalla. She said, well then who attends to his needs? Who cooks for him and who cleans for him? Well, we do that, Ya Rasulullah. It's an honor for us. If he's worshipping Allah so much, we will provide him with food and we will clean up after him. The Prophet said, you are greater abid than he is. We can... So I will say this with all due respect to my Hindu brothers and my Hindu sisters, that look, maybe you need to look into your religion. But when I say this, then the finger points back at me. So, well, how much of your religion is productive? How many times you go and sit inside the mosque? How many times you are celebrating and lamenting? How many days do you use? And then I am forced to introspect as well. No, nothing of this might be that problematic shirk, but it is nonetheless distracting. So we work into this subject a little bit more. If we look at shirk at a very intimate level, it is actually not proclaiming other than God at all. It is the inner self becoming the other God. I often say this. You know, when Lat and Uzza were worshipped, Lat and Uzza was just wood and stone, as Imam Ali says in Nahj al-Balagha. There was no value in Lat and Uzza. The value was placed in Lat and Uzza by the people that were worshipping Lat and Uzza. So the people had this corruption within their souls that was then depicted in an idol. And then they worshipped the idol. What were they doing? They were worshipping their own self. Look at it again. If somebody were to give me the ring of Sulaiman, with which he ruled the heavens and the earth, and on the other hand, if I were offered the dust from the feet of Hussain, I would abandon the ring and take the dust from the feet of Hussain. Who places value beneath, who places value in the dust at the feet of Hussain? I do. Because I venerate Imam Hussain to that level, that the dust of his feet is worth more to me than the ring. Who places value therein? I do. I am the point who gives value to this world. Otherwise, the world is valueless. It doesn't have any value. If I am materially inclined, I will take the ring of Sulaiman. If I am not, then I will take the dust from the feet of Hussain ibn Ali. I will choose. I am the one who gives any potency to other. So therefore, the real shirk takes place here. I am the other God. You are the other God. And one of the two has to go before the other one prevails. And in this case, we have to go in order for Allah to prevail upon us. And that is the whole message of Wahdaniyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran and through the text of the Prophet. That you are the point of shirk and you are in an existential form of shirk. So as you grow and as you evolve, begin to relieve yourself of this shirk and surrender to Allah in the most noblest of fashion. Now, if you look at this, and obviously we have to go towards Masaib, you will find, and please do go and think about this. What did Iblis do? Iblis allowed his ego to prevail beyond surrender to God. God is asking him, you are saying that you are surrendered to me in my ibadah, that you are doing my ibadah. If you are doing my ibadah, then I'm asking you to do sajda in front of this person for my sake. And Iblis refuses. What is he doing there? He is giving preference to his own self beyond God. And that is the point of shirk. And since he did not do sajda, that Iblis in us will not relent. And it is only through a struggle of lifetime that we begin to relent. You see this world of ours that is spent in liking this and disliking him and cursing him and loving this are all forms of shirk. A liberated soul from within does not have this. I often say this. What a wonderful muwahid Hussain ibn Ali is. Hurr comes to him. Hussain should have rage in his soul. If Hazrat Hurr were to have come to me, na'udhu billah, if I had been in the place of Imam Hussain, I would say, Hurr, this you are adding more injury to my wound. You have brought me to this place. And now you come repentant to assist me? I would much rather you were on the other side and I put you to death. By you being here now is not going to save my life. But this wahdaniyah of Hussain, he embraces Hurr. This is how he has relieved himself of the shackles of inner shirk. And that is why these people stand at the helm of humanity. Imam Hussain, at a place in his journey, fills water in the water skins. And they progress onto their journey. Somebody cries out, Allah is great. Imam turns to him and says, indeed Allah is great. But what causes you to exclaim the takbir at this point? I see the date palms of Kufa. There were people within the camp of Hussain who understands the route, who understood the route very well. They said, we are at a great distance from Kufa. They cannot possibly be the trees of Kufa. They looked closely and they said, no, it is an army approaching us and it is drowned in armor. Imam Hussain took a look and he said, indeed it is an army that approaches us. It was Hurr with an army of 1,000 men. The Imam said, camp here in a place known as Dhu Hassan. They camped. The Rawi reports, the men came very fatigued and very tired. They had no intention of engaging in battle with Hussain. Imam Hussain ordered that the water be given to every man and to their animals. A person reports, I was the very last one. When I came, Imam Hussain saw the fatigue on my face. He said, cause your horse to kneel. As he caused his horse to kneel, Imam Hussain gave him water. And he said, now feed your horse. It was time for prayers. Imam Hussain had not spoken with Hurr as yet. Imam Hussain praised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he said, oh people, we are only here because you invited us. If you no longer want us, allow us to leave. Hurr did not say anything. Imam Hussain turned to Hurr. He said, attend to your prayers and we will to ours. Hurr said, we will all pray behind you. Imam Hussain prayed his dhuhr. After dhuhr, he turned to the congregation. He praised Allah and then he gave a sermon. He said, oh people, at your insistence have I come here. You said we are without a leader and we want a leader to lead us. And hence I have come. It was your letters that have forced me to take this route. Hurr said, oh Hussain, I know not of these letters. Imam Hussain ordered his man to bring 2 sacks of letters. Hurr looked at them and he said, I was not amongst those who have written this letter to you. Imam Hussain ascended his steed. Hurr said, oh Hussain, what do you intend? He said, I have asked you already. If you do not want my assistance, then allow me to return to my hometown. We, the family of the Prophet, are most befitting leaders for this ummah. We can lead you, but if you do not allow us, then allow me to return. Hurr said, I have been commissioned to stay with you until I hand you over to Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. Imam said, death is closer to you than what you intend. Hurr said, I will write a letter to Ibn Ziyad and await his instructions. Imam Hussain spurred his horse to return on the route on which he had come in order to gesture that he was going back to Medina. Hurr audaciously grabbed the reins of Imam Hussein's horse. When he did this, Imam said, "Thaqulatka ummuk." May the grief of your death befall on your mother. May she cry in sorrow and weep for you. Hurr startled, taken aback. He said, "Hussein, had it been any other Arab who would have uttered these words, I would have responded in the like manner. But what can I do? Your mother is the queen of women. I cannot remember her but with salutations and prayers." Imam Hussain said, "Hurr, let me be." Hurr said, "Oh Hussein," trying to admonish Hussein, "please do not go to war with these people. I have no doubt they will overcome you and kill you." Hussein said, "Atukhawifuni bil maut." Hurr, do you frighten me with death? And then Imam Hussain recited a poem attributed to somebody in Aus. He said, "There is no blemish on a man. If he as a Muslim fights for the truth, if he dies a glorious death. He dies a free man. If he lives so without regret. Sufficient is this humility for you, O Hurr, that you call yourself a free man, and your nose is rubbed on the dust of the earth in humility." Hurr realizes that Hussein has resolved to die. Hurr refuses to let Hussein return. There are exchange of words. Hurr accompanies Imam Hussain. And unrelentingly, until Imam Hussain comes towards Karbala, Hurr receives the communication of Ibn Ziyad. And Ibn Ziyad writes, either extract allegiance from him or take him to a wilderness that has no vegetation or water. Hurr had his command. He came with Imam Hussain, Shatul Furat. Imam Hussain camped there. Hurr sees that the army of Ibn Ziyad is building by the day. And Imam Hussein's numbers are a mere 70, 90, 100. Hurr is watching this until an army of 30,000 gathers. It's the night of Ashura. Hurr is filled with anxiety. The water has been cut off. And there are cries of thirst emanating from the tent of Hussein. Hurr is forced to reflect within himself. What have I done? 30,000 men and a mere 70, 90 people here. The water has been cut. They are being starved to death. War may not break out, he says to himself. Allah may avert this battle. The crack of dawn, when he sees how incited the soldiers are, he goes to Umar ibn Sa'd. He said, "Ibn Sa'd, are you going to engage with Hussein and his man in a battle?" "Indeed, Hurr, in no time whatsoever shall you see heads rolling and arms cut from the body." Hurr hears this and he begins to tremble. He comes back, contemplating. And he hears a cry, "Hal min nasirin yansuruna, hal min mughisin yughithuna, hal min dhabin yadubbu an haram ali Muhammad, an haram Muhammad." Hurr trembles in awe. There is a general with him, Muhajir. He turns to Muhajir. He says, "Muhajir, don't you want to water your horse?" Muhajir says, "Hurr, you're gripped with fear. Your color has turned pale. You are the greatest warrior Sham has produced. What is this that I see? Hurr, they are hungry, thirsty, weak people. In no time shall we put them to death, O Hurr. Do not fear." Hurr says, "By Allah, I do not fear death. I see myself between heaven and earth, between heaven and hell. By Allah, I will not prefer hell over heaven, even if I'm cut into thousands of pieces." Muhajir says that Hurr was accompanied by his brother and 2 sons and servants. Hurr moves towards Hussein. We hear from the Zakireen. Hussein looks from afar. Abbas says, is an attack imminent? Hussein says, no, Abbas, that is my guest coming to me. Hurr comes penitent, repentant. He comes to Hussein. How may I look at you, O Hussein, after what I have done to you? Does your soul have forgiveness for me, O Hussein? I forgive you, O Hurr, and so does Allah. Come embrace me. Hurr says, O Hussein, allow me to remain seated upon my steed. Allow me to go to the women of the Prophet's household and seek their forgiveness. Hussein allows him. Hurr comes, stands outside the tents. He says, O women of the household of the Prophet, before you stands the greatest criminal. It was I who prevented your path. If only my hands had become paralyzed. If only my tongue were to have been severed. And then he began to hit his face. As he said this, the cries and the wailing of the women filled the air. Hurr descended from his horse and began to beat his face and head. Zainab said, Fizza, go to Hurr. Tell him the daughter of Fatima can no longer stand his plea. Tell him we are praying for him. She comes, she says, Zainab commends you to Allah, O Hurr, do not cry. Hurr comes to Hussein. After the sacrifice of his two sons and his brother, Hurr says, O Hussein, allow me to give my life for you. Hussein, so be it, O Hurr. Hurr comes into the battlefield, recites poetry of war. I am Hurr, from the best of households, who quench the thirst of their guests. These are the best guests of Allah. They remain thirsty. By Allah, I shall unsheathe my sword against you, and I shall not fall in defeat until I have killed a great many of you and defended him. Hurr fights gallantly until they kill his horse. Hurr comes to the ground, fights on the ground. Hurr is struck on several occasions upon his head and body. He refuses to fall until an iron mace arises upon his blessed head. His head splits. As he begins to come upon the earth, he cries out, O Aba Abdullah, come to my aid. Hussein और हबीब दौड़ते हैं हुर के सराने. हुसैन आते हैं हुर के पास. कहता है निअमल हुर हुर इब्न यजीद रियाही. बेहतरीन हुर इब्न यजीद हैं. ए हुर आपकी मां ने हकीकी नाम आपको दिया. दुनिया और आखिरत में आप हुर हैं. हुर के सर उठाया, गोद में रखा. हुर पर मौत आने लगी, रूह कब्ज होने लगा. इतने में हुर के लबों पर मुस्कुराहट जाहिर हुई. हबीब पूछते हैं, हुर क्या हुसैन के नाना आए हैं? क्या कौसर से सैराब करा रहे हैं? कहा नहीं ये हबीब नहीं. तो फिर कहते हैं मुस्कुराहट का है कि ये हुर, क्योंकि मेरा सर इस आदमी के गोद में है और इस तरह मैं जान दे रहा हूं. मैं कहूंगा हुर, हुसैन का सर किनके गोद में होगा? हुर के माथे पर जख्म है. हुसैन रुमाल निकालते हैं. हुसैन हुर के जख्म को बांधते हैं रुमाल से. कहते हैं ये फातिमा के हाथ का रुमाल है. मैं कहूंगा हुर, ये रुमाल क़यामत तक बाकी रह गया आपके सर पर और पेशानी पर. आइए शाम गरीबा, देखिए फातिमा की चादर किस तरह छीनते हैं ज़ैनब व कुलसूम के सरों पर से. माथे में